We'll take you live now to the Federal Health Minister, Greg Hunt, with the latest COVID update.
Strongest week to date. And given that it was only 2 weeks ago that ATAGI provided its advice, to see the strength of those results, both first doses and second doses coming forward, I think is very heartening for the nation. All up, we're now at 8.121 million, so 8,121,649 vaccinations. And very significantly, we are passing 5 million AstraZeneca vaccinations today, and we'll have approximately 3.1 million Pfizer vaccinations, and over 6.27 million Australians have had first doses, or 30.4% of the nation, and 1.8 million Australians, or 8.8% of the eligible adult population, have had second doses. Significantly, we're now at 53.4% of over 50s, 62.4% of over 60s, and 70.5% of over 70s. So our most vulnerable, as they get progressively older, have higher and greater vaccination rates. So I think that's extremely important. In terms of cases, what we have seen is that over the last 24 hours, we've had 36 local cases and 4 under investigation. Most importantly, I spoke with Professor Paul Kelly shortly before joining you, our Chief Medical Officer. He has been working both with New South Wales but also with the AHPPC, or the Principals Committee of Chief Medical Officers and Chief Health Officers around the country. His view is that New South Wales is flattening the curve and getting on top of it. And the reason why that's so important is it's important for the people of Sydney, important for the people of New South Wales, but it's an important demonstration to the people of Australia that we can do this. We've done it before, we're doing it now, and we'll do it again. And so Paul's real point to me was that the retransmission rate, or what's known as the REF, or the R effective rate, is now getting close to 1. That means that those cases that are occurring are significantly already within isolation, or have been largely within isolation. Some are within the community, so we have to follow each of those every day. But this is a very important step forward for New South Wales and for the nation. And in addition to that, what we also know is in terms of Queensland, they are tracking and tracing their cases. We are keeping an eye on some of those cases which have been in the community. But equally, during the course of this week, Western Australia and South Australia, the Northern Territory, real progress. The Northern Territory was our biggest worry this week. Even though the numbers in New South Wales are larger, the risk of these cases getting into the Indigenous community, in particular getting into the long grass community, or the significant number of people who are homeless within the Darwin area and could in time travel back to remote communities, that's been a deep concern. And I know that the Chief Minister and the Health Minister, Natasha Files, and I have spoken most days this week, have been intensely focused on the protections and the vaccinations amongst the long grass community. And what we've seen in the Northern Territory, I think, is probably the most important development of the week, although today I'm very pleased at the New South Wales outcome, where it is overwhelmingly cases within isolation which have been identified. Finally, I would also mention that the Chief Medical Officer, Paul Kelly, has, as I outlined earlier, met with the Chief Health Officers of Australia and begun the work on the Prime Minister's and National Cabinet's National COVID Recovery Plan. And this recovery or transition plan, with its 4 stages, the Chief Health Officers have been at work today outlining those steps, and we will get the medical advice shortly through the course of the work of the Doherty Institute, and that will also be shared, of course, with the Chief Health Officers. And that provides the pathway to progressive normalisation. It's hard, it's difficult. Around the world, what we know is that we've had, again, thousands and thousands of cases, over 2.15 million lives lost this year alone, No lives lost in Australia from people who've caught COVID in Australia, but there are at this moment 6 people in ICU, so we watch their condition and we know, however, that they are in the best of all possible medical hands. I'm happy to take any questions. I'll start, if I may, with those that are on the phone. I think I've got Fiona on the phone.
Minister, thank you. Look, tens of thousands of Australians are registered as wanting to come home, and they're not going to be able to come home by the looks of it until enough Australians get vaccinated. Are you confident that whatever those magic numbers may be, that we will get to them by the end of this year?
Well, we'll make sure that every Australian has the opportunity to be vaccinated during the course of the year. And we're increasingly confident both of supply but also of distribution. And so the fact that this week, even only 2 weeks after the most recent ATAGI advice, we've had 5 days that represent by a significant amount a record vaccination rate, I think is a very strong sign. And that's before we receive the significant increases in Pfizer, which are commencing this month, and then they grow again over the course of the rest of the year, and the Moderna and the potential for Novavax. So we believe that we will have significant supplies, adequate supplies to ensure all Australians are covered during the course of this year.